Alright guys, here it goes. My name is Matthew Embry Bradshaw. In case you haven't heard of me, I'm running for president. I'm running as an independent candidate, currently in California, near Willows, California. The debate happened. I just kind of took down some notes. Some things I'm going to talk about that I would have talked about had I been given the opportunity to talk about them. The only thing is, I probably got more time now than I would have then. So, just wrote down a whole bunch of stuff. There's really no rhyme or reason other than this is how it came out through the debate, pretty much. If you want to know more about me, before you take the time to watch this video, it might be a little long. I'm not sure what it's going to be. I don't know how long YouTube's going to let me record. It's been a while since I uploaded a long video. Go to thepodus2020.com. Okay? If you do that, you can find links to everything. My podcast, my views, you know. Alright. It says, how would I lead during the new phase of COVID-19? The first thing that I would do, as far as COVID-19 goes, is I would prioritize the manufacture of those tests that can tell you a result. Do you have COVID-19 within 15 minutes or less? I want to distribute them to every American for free, of course. And then we need to test as many people as possible without being invasive upon your freedom. But we need to make available that test. Do you wonder if you've got COVID-19? Well, here it is. It's in the mail. Write your stuff in. Send it in. If it can be seen or tested, you know, if they can come up with a test where the person can know right then without sending it in, that would be fantastic. But that's where I would put the priority first, is finding out who's got it and who don't. And then second, we need to be finding a way to cure it, stop it, slow it down, whatever. You know, they're working on vaccines and stuff. But first, we need to find out who's got it, because if we can, you know, if every day when your kid comes to school, they can take a thing, stick it in a test tube or whatever, and within 30 minutes of everybody showing up at school, everybody know who does not have it currently. You get what I'm saying? Quick and easy. We can find cheap ways to do it, I'm sure. We take the profit out of the health and well-being of our people, and things get a lot cheaper. Alright? Alright, they talked about shutdowns, more shutdowns. Alright, first of all, this is where I'm going to bring up the UBI. The Universal Basic Income of $2,650 a month, which Social Security basically is, you know, but it's just not enough and it's not good. And they take money from that to go towards your health care, which I want to give total health care for all. Total health care for all. That's everything. Eyes, teeth, surgeries, anything. It's covered. And the bill goes to the PHRT fund, which is paid for by the rich. Alright? So, the shutdowns wouldn't be so bad if people could make it through the shutdown. If there needed to be a shutdown and people were made whole by way of this UBI, okay, because really the people who are suffering are the people who don't have money in the bank, the people who don't have savings, the people who can't fix their car, the people who can't afford a $500 problem. Well, they definitely can't afford it for 6, 7 to 8 months, 2 years. I mean, come on, guys. So if you have a UBI of $2,650 per adult, that's going to help out a lot of families. It's going to lift people out of poverty. No taxes, no strings attached. Now, to be clear, this takes away every other government assistance. All right? Because it's more than all of them. Starting at $2,650 a month, and it can fluctuate upwards as the economy in our nation becomes prosperous, and I will lead us to do that. My goal is to have it increasing by the time that I'm no longer your president. So we wouldn't need the shutdown, or the shutdowns wouldn't be as bad if people had income. You know, if you had $2,650 a month where you used to work minimum wage at 20, 30 hours a week, if you could get it, no health care, now you're going to have this basic income. So it replaces unemployment. It replaces disability. It literally becomes the security of our society. So it becomes the active to everyone Social Security. And it's just going to be paid for by the rich. But it's going to be the UBI. But it will provide Social Security. So they're all giving you this fear of, oh, Social Security is going to end. Not under a Bradshaw administration. Under a Bradshaw administration, I'm going to make sure that we invest in every person now, so that we can have better citizens later, a better economy later, a better future later, a better infrastructure later, a better people later. The foundation is the people. You see, so if you want to have kids, I'm all right with that. People are like, oh, people are going to pop out babies that have more welfare money coming in. Good. I don't have to hire somebody to raise children who are going to later on be citizens of the greatest nation. We want to have a great nation. And I want, the problem with children who don't develop in a way that we want, in a way, that promotes peace, is because a family's destroyed. Because they can't take care of one another, or a father, can't technically be there because it would affect the mother of his child's food stamps, because he makes a little bit of money and it would put it over the top. But she needs those food stamps. Who else is going to take care of her babies? We need to start caring about each other as if we are all one family. And we're asking the very best of us who get to the very tip top, off of the backs, which is what's happened. They've been robbed. We've been robbed for decades or longer. But I'm only decades old, so if you've been robbed longer than I have. And what I'm saying is that if you're going to do business in this nation, we are going to tax you incrementally from the top only. And that is the only people who are going to pay for this. No one $1 million or below is going to spend $1 on this fund out of anything that you have earned. Period. So when it comes to helping someone who's over these borders who isn't a citizen yet and they need health care, quit complaining about it. You're not paying for it. It's not coming out. It's not hurting you or inhibiting you anymore, because under a Bradshaw administration, you have total health care. You feel me? You dig? See, my immigration policy is bring us all who need us. And if we can, we will. All right, so I don't think if we had shutdowns, it's not going to be as bad, because people are going to have the UBI and they're going to have total health care. And we've got all types of delivery systems out there now that we can make it possible. We can provide each Uber driver, each DoorDash driver, each whatever delivery type of Postmates driver you are, with either a credit on their UBI or just a package in the mail that comes with the proper protective gear and amount of masks that they need to do their job safely and keep them safe and reduce the spread of any type of virus. All right. It says provide fair elections and end voter suppression. I think it was talking about how are we going to deal with voter fraud or interference. And this is what I want to do. In order, I think, to make the elections more secure, more instant, and reach more people. Because what I think we should have is 80% or more involvement. I think once the election starts, we should have till January 1st, I guess. Start there. And it be an app that you can sign into, and it be as secure as transferring money at least, which we transfer our money instantly. You know, I'm shopping at a store and I get a ding on my phone before I ever get a receipt. That's how fast money is transferred securely. That's how fast my vote could be transferred securely. So what I want to do is I want to say, as long as the window of opportunity to vote is open, which is we're shooting for 80% by January 1st. We open up the election as early as the beginning of the year. Every year you can begin to vote. And then, because it's in an app and because official voting isn't in by whatever, how about this? How about we don't extend it to the end of the year? How about it ends at November 3rd just like now, but you have from January 1st to November 3rd to cast your vote through the app. And these are the requirements for that vote to count. It needs to be attached to a name, a birthday, and a social security number. And as long as those three match up and do not coincide with a death certificate, then it counts. Simple as that. And we will hear the voice of the people who live in this nation. And you say, what about all those people who are illegal and they don't have social security numbers and stuff like that? Well, I have a solution for that. I just want to give all those people an immediate 7-year path to citizenship. You know, I can't make up for the past, but I can start now and make it fair for everyone. You know, as fair as it can be. If you are willing to submit your identifying marks, say your fingerprints, an iris scan, and these are for people who are not citizens of America, who want to come into America, or who are already here but are not citizens. You just submit these identifying marks so that we know it's you. And then you get an immigrant ID card, but it looks exactly the same as any other ID card, because I don't want people getting treated differently as soon as they see their ID card. But in the system, you will know that you are an immigrant citizen and you have 7 years. And during those 7 years, you do not get a full UBI. That UBI is earned over those 7 years, but you do get total health care for all. And I would like the American people to set the tax for them at 10%. And then anybody in the immigrant citizen status is a 20% flat tax. So all those people who say we're giving away things to people, spending money out of the fund on people who aren't citizens, well, during those 7 years, you're going to pay a double tax, up to a double tax. I don't want it to go any further than that. We'll talk about it. So we're going to tax you more because you're a stranger in our nation, okay? Maybe we'll do some grandfathering if you've been here X amount of years. I don't know. We'll figure all that out. But I kind of want to make it an even playing field. So if you're here, 7 years citizenship, so you get a social security number, you get access to health care, you get access to public schooling, you get what I'm saying? We're going to invest in you. And then, as you know, and you work, and you make that money, and you pay that citizen tax, then when you become a citizen, you get the regular flat tax just like everybody else. And you've paid your dues, if you will, to the American people for saying, hey, we're going to make room for you in our nation. And until you're able to pay back everything that we're making available to you, which is about 7 years getting in here. And see, here's how the UBI will work for an immigrant citizen. You take 7 years of days. You divide whatever the current UBI is by that. And every day, that citizen, at the beginning of every month, however many days that person has been in, that's what they will get on their UBI. So that when they're halfway through 3.5 years, they're going to get half of a UBI. You get what I'm saying? It's going to like be earning stock in America, because that's what the UBI is. It is an American dividend, and since we're taking it from the top, who's been earned off the backs of the people, we're giving it back to the citizens who earned it. So this way it allows you to earn yourself into that stockholdership as a citizen and join the rest of the citizens in a full UBI. I think that's balanced, and I think that's as fair as we can make it. And I think with that UBI, We could extend it, and they're in a rapid relief like a coronavirus right now. You get what I'm saying? We could extend it to immigrant citizens during a pandemic or a war or whatever is the emergency that needed to be done. That's where the PHR part comes from. That's rapid relief. That's people who need help, and we can help them, so we're going to. Because it's the right thing to do, to not leave people suffering. That's the right thing to do. So that's what we're going to do. As president, that's what I'm going to lead this nation to do. The right thing, all the time. All right, so we're going to end voter suppression, all right, by doing this. I'm going to make it easy for you to cast your vote in a secure way. Now, I'm sure there's somebody out there that didn't file a death certificate but has a birth certificate, and somebody out there is going to vote with a dead person's name. I'm not worried about that minority of people ever swinging an entire election. Okay, and if people care that much that they never filed their, that they're like, hey man, how about we not bury the person we love in a normal way? We'll just do it up here in the woods. That's how he wanted to go anyways, and we'll keep his stuff so we can get an extra vote in. You know, whatever. So we can get his extra Social Security. All right, whatever. It's not going to affect things that much. It's not going to affect it. It's not going to amount to a hill of beans, as some people would say. All right, so gerrymandering, out of here. This is my plan for that. We're going to take the longitudinal and latitudinal lines, and we're going to go from there. And we're just going to keep bisecting and dissecting squares. Squares become districts. You feel me? Equal districts. That's how we're going to do it. It's not going to be any drawing lines around creek systems. It's going to be, if you're in this is your district. Until it goes over to another county, which might be separated by a creek or a mountaintop or something like that. So, you know, if you got a square and it hits this creek, all these people in this square is you. The other side's another county. Don't worry about it. Basic, fair, no more gerrymandering. That is done. All right. And like I said, we're going to create an app to vote. And until November 3rd, from January 1st to November 3rd, you will be able to cast your vote and change your vote at any time you want. And you will be able to write in any candidate. That's all it's going to be. President, boom, pick a person. Type it in. Hit the drop down button. You know, ding, there's a drop down. Once any person in America enters a name that is not in the drop down, I'm going to have it programmed where that name will be put in the drop down and then checked to see if that person is running. Simple. You know, obviously Donald Duck isn't running. You know, but things like that I'm really not worried about. You know, people who want to vote for me know me by name. Matthew Embry, Embry Bradshaw. Check it out. Google me. All right, election interference. This app can solve that too. You feel what I'm saying? Because what we do is you don't submit your vote until November 3rd. You just put it in your app, boom. It is submitted, but it's not final. You get? So all you got to do is when the time comes, we do an update right before the election. And we make sure that it's as secure as it can be, more secure than any money transfer ever. And like I said before, at least that's secure. And then you finalize your vote. Now, if you died, or not died, but say you dropped your phone in the river on election day and you couldn't finalize your vote, whatever your last vote was, that's what it will be. And you don't got to worry about ever having a password or anything like that, because all you're going to have to do is know your information and get in there and vote. And we know who you are. They know who we are, because they know everything about us because of our phones. Everything about us. Everything's recorded. Everything I'm doing, they're already recording it. I just can't access that video, so I got to record it myself. All right, so anybody who interferes in our elections, yes, they will be held accountable. You know, they keep talking about these bounties put on our soldiers, that Putin has put bounties on our soldiers. If that was the case and I was president, not only would I have a discussion with him, but I would ensure you that he would remove them. or he would have some interference with a big stick. All right, then they talk about Trump's audit. I haven't filed taxes in the last couple of years. I just feel like, there wasn't any point. I'm not making a lot of money, during all this. So, he's been doing it. I just think it's interesting that he's been being audited. What I think is Trump is giving us the secret here. You don't have to give your taxes up as long as you're auditing your stuff. Is your stuff under audit? Oh, well. I can't submit them until I get done auditing mine to make sure that everything is correct. Make sure that there's nothing missing. I got to find some receipts that weren't put in there. I got to change some numbers around so you don't know. You get what I mean? That's what could be happening in an audit. Biden pointed out that he knows how to game the system. So, whatever. All right, foreign entanglement. I don't remember what they were talking about there. I think maybe they started to mention Korea. And, what's the foreign policy with China? Here's how I would like our nation to be structured so that our foreign policy is fairly simple. All right? I would like every responsible American to be trained and know how to use military weapon style stuff. Not forced, voluntarily. So if you would like to be trained on military weapons and trained the same way you would be if you were to join the Army, I want that to be a possibility. I want it to be encouraged, and I want every single citizen who wants to defend the nation here on the mainland to have access to that without signing some contract into the Army that's going to become a pawn of the next president who wants to go do whatever he wants with our people and our brothers and our sisters, sending them out to places maybe to fight for something good, maybe just to fight for someone greedy. So we have to find balance in this. And so what I would like to do is bring all of our troops home and use all of our troops as those people who will train the rest of the Americans, basically in little militias all over America. And as you are trained, then you get given the weapon that you become proficient upon and X amount of ammo to take home in case there was ever an invasion with any other nation or group of nations who decided that they wanted to come against America. So that no matter where another nation tried to infiltrate our borders, the people were prepared and armed to fight against any threat, foreign or domestic. Because that's what the Second Amendment is for. The Second Amendment is for. Is so that the people are always ensured that they have the ability to bear arms against an oppressive government and not lose. What good is the right if it only covered the amount of weapons and ammo and magazine size that would ensure that you are going to lose? You might lose shooting something, you might lose fighting, but you're still going to lose because it doesn't protect that? I don't think so. It protects your right to be able to sufficiently protect yourself and your family from an oppressive government, whether that's our government or the government coming through our borders. So I want to train as many people as will be trained. And as far as training goes, I want to use the military as an avenue to where people who are going to become police officers have been through the utmost training, the utmost psych evaluations. And someone must put your name in the hat, so to speak. To become a police officer, you must be recommended as someone who has not exhibited hatred, someone who has exhibited balance and fairness in leadership. You feel what I mean? Like the police officer needs to be the retirement end so that we can ensure that those people who want those positions, they not only want those positions, like they're done being in the military, but they want to serve in their communities. And that's another thing I think we need to have. We need to have community police.
We found a faster route via US 95 South, which saves 10 minutes. If you prefer to stay on the current route, tap no thanks.
I ain't tapping out of this. $15 minimum wage. With the UBI, this will no longer be a federal issue. Everybody's asking for a $15 minimum wage. I'm telling you that I'm giving you a $16 plus 40-hour a week UBI. So I'm taking the pressure off the small
Head
businessman.
north.
I can't change it. It'll mess up the camera. All right, so I'm taking the pressure off the small businessman because the UBI is giving these people what they need to survive. You see, people are always fussing at their employers because their employers either can't afford them or don't have to pay them what they need to survive. A fair day's wage that would actually pay bills and not have to work multiple jobs. Here's another thing, guys. No overtime tax. No overtime tax. All overtime, tax-free. Anybody out there who this affects, think about that for a minute, how much money you're going to bring home. I just want to make a federal law that says the people shall never be taxed on overtime. All wages over 40 hours per week shall be tax-free. Forever and ever. If you can't get behind that, I don't even know who you are. Why are you listening to this if you can't get behind that? All right. Talked about cages and separating kids from the parents. I would never do that. See, what I would do is you come, I would say, hey man, give me your fingerprint. Let me scan your iris real quick. I am going to get a DNA sample in case you are a murderer and you know, someone, and you're sneaking in here. I don't know who you are. You're sneaking in here, right? We're going to work with the Mexican government to make sure that we can identify as best we can. But we're going to take all these identifying stuff. And then you're a 7-year citizen. You get medical. You get no UBI. It's a progressively earned stockholdership in the profits of America by being a citizen and working here and filing your taxes. And now you can work here for a job where you can file taxes, so you can get a job that can pay you fairly, and you don't have to no longer be used by greedy people because they can pay you less. God said, give a fair day's wage to a man. A fair day's wage. So that's what's going to happen. A wage is a living wage. You dig? A living wage. So I'm empowering people to be able to get that because I'm giving them identification. I'm giving them immigrant citizenship. All right, so they can go work. People are like, oh, they're taking our jobs. I'm going to create so many jobs in this country. You understand? Plus, I'm giving you a UBI. That's as good as most people's jobs are. And it's more than the $15 minimum wage. So just forget about that. Jump on the UBI train. Because this is better than that. You feel me? It's better than that. And then you work out an agreement with your boss. And it can be anything. And because the government's out of it, you can be like, hey, man, I'll be happy to work for X amount of cash a day and three plates of food to take home to my family. And boom, he just goes in there, boom, boom, labor, Embry Bradshaw, employee, whatever, cash, done. If that's what you agree. Or you can be like, no, I want to be paid this much an hour, and you can pay me every week. Whatever that becomes, or whatever the employer just automatically has as his system of payment. They just tell you this is how it works, just like it is now, except there's no interference in it. You can have a state low minimum wage if you want, but federally, I'm giving you a UBI. So that's a minimum lifestyle, a minimum basic income, universal basic income. All right. The cages and separating kids from their parents. This is what I was saying. My immigration policy fixes this. That would have never happened under my immigration policy. People who are seeking asylum would come here, say they're seeking asylum. I would take their identifying marks, and I would give them immediate immigrant citizen status, which is in every way the same, except they're earning their stockhold into American society by a 7-year thing. I just talked about all that. Another thing during that time is they would be able to be deported as someone who's not a citizen now. I feel like I heard something outside. All right, then they talked about race. and in America, the race experience in the United States, and how children of color, black and brown, have to have the talk. That's basically because of your color, there's a higher chance that interactions with the police are not going to go well. Here's how I want to fix that. Okay? What is the root of those issues? Hatred, fear. Okay? I'm afraid of a cop if I'm a black man, or a brown man, or a person of color, or poor. I'm afraid of those cops because they oppress me. You know, I call the bad cops the enforcers of injustice. The good cops, you're not that. But the bad ones, you are enforcers of injustice, and you know who you are. And as president, I will hold you accountable. So this is what I want to do. I want to take away the reason for us to be afraid that I'm going to get killed right now. You feel me? Because I want to have a accountable, executioner law, which means that if someone like an officer takes it upon themselves to become the judge, jury, and executioner, they will be held accountable of whether or not those circumstances required that. And people are like, well, they already have that now. They have qualified immunity. Well, I'm going to do away with qualified immunity because this is going to trump it. This is all there is going to be. Okay? So here's how the first question that's going to be asked to find out whether or not it was murder or it was an execution, that when being held accountable, that person is not a murderer. So here's how we do this. What was the offense that the officer was coming into the situation for? Okay, let's take it upon George Floyd. The police officer was coming in about a $20 bill. Okay? Regardless of all the other issues or things that have been brought up this way or that way, this law would say to that officer, okay, if he is guilty of stealing $20, what is the ultimate what judgment would possibly come upon him? The worst case scenario would come upon him. And if that scenario is not death, the officer has no reason to bring anything lethal to the game. In fact, in situations like that, this is what I think. I think they should have one clip full of rubber rounds and the next clip full of real rounds. And that should just become a standard and everyone know that. And everyone know that, hey, he's knocking on my door to do a no-knock warrant, but for some reason he's knocking even though it's a no-knock warrant over marijuana drug accusation. First of all, marijuana should never have been made illegal or any form of crime at all, period. Second of all, nobody should be killed for being guilty of having marijuana on them. I mean, come on, people. So in that circumstance, under the laws that I'm calling the accountable executioner law, you can't bring murder to the situation. You can't bring a lethal answer as a solution. Why are we busting down people's door over weed? It's legal in half the states. And when I'm president, it's going to be legal everywhere and grown everywhere, and we're going to use it to get out of debt and build our UBI is what we're going to do. We're not leaving our children with the debt and mess that we've been given. So that's one way I'm going to help solve that problem. Because when you know that this is a federal law, that a cop can't bring a real bullet at you his first clip has to be non-lethal rounds because it's a non-lethal situation. Now, if we've got a guy running through town, he's a serial killer, he's shooting people up, he's going down the street, shooting out of his window, just killing people. Guess what? If he was convicted, his sentence would probably be death or life or something. Okay? So, if that I can see being justified to stop him from keeping on killing people. But you're going to put someone to death over $20? You're going to put someone to death over marijuana suspicion? You're going to put someone to death when they're running away from you? Have we lost our minds in this nation? Yes, we have. And anybody who stands, well, let me put it this way, anybody who doesn't stand against police brutality, anybody who doesn't stand against the corruption in this government, anyone who doesn't stand against the very systemic racism in our justice system, I hope you will not vote for. Do you understand? I'm going to put laws in place that help us not have to worry and be afraid of one another no more. Because I'm going to put the law to protect the decision that is the right decision to be made. And that is that if your sentence would not be put them to death, you don't bring that to the game. That's your backup plan. That's your last resort, not your first resort. And I'm going to make that law. And then the people will know that they're not coming to be killed. And then the cops will know that those people that they're coming at don't think that they're coming at them to kill them. Who's showing up at the door with a bulletproof vest? Who's showing up with protection? All right? If you need more protection, wear more protection. We'll provide that. If you're like, hey, I don't want a bullet to get in a frontal assault in any way, I need the equipment. Okay, we'll do that. Let's find the lightest way to protect our officers so that they don't have to be afraid of dying in case someone is murderous on the other side of the door. And then let's put them through the utmost training. I'm talking about, if you can't de-escalate a situation, you're never going to be a police officer. Okay? That's the fact. And the heart must change. Because, see, we're going to change the way all these things are crimes. Things that shouldn't be a crime are not going to be a crime. It's that simple. So that's going to help a lot of things too. So as far as reforming the justice system, I'm going to give a blanket presidential pardon for every cannabis crime on the books. I'm going to make sure that it's declassified. It's no longer some schedule I'm going to put you in jail for. We're just going to make it what it is. A natural medicinal herb that God made and said is good on the first page in the first chapter of the Bible. So all those who serve the Creator or submit to the power that is within the earth, or God, the supreme authority of all, Creator of the universe, whoever you submit to, God said it was good. And He's the supreme authority over all of the authority of man. So guess what? I'm letting you out of jail. If that's all you're in jail for, I'm giving you a credit for however many years was put on your account for a cannabis crime. I'm going to give you a credit. You're getting out if you can. If you got some dual crime on there and your cannabis crime ain't enough to get you out. But if you've already been serving more than you should have, you're coming out, and I'm going to give you a UBI credit to put you on your feet. So we're going to make things that shouldn't be against the law no longer against the law. And I'm going to give presidential pardons where people are going to do things that are unjust within the state. I'm going to give more presidential pardons than anybody else because everybody else isn't willing to stand by what's right. You know why? Because a presidential pardon is going to set people free, which is going to make the prison industry not as profitable. I'm going to give total health care. Total. Taking the profits from the top of America. The tax, the PHR tax. It's going to pay for the people of this nation to be made whole. If all I got to do is laser some stuff off your eye and you can see, why in the world would I not invest in you so that you can live a better life? So that you could do more? It only makes sense to have the best, strongest people. Nobody wants a factory of rusty old robots. They want new robots. Well, I want people. I want this nation to be strong. I want to empower you to defend your rights. I want to empower you to defend where you live in case some president comes in and we go to war. I want you to be able to protect you and yours and know that if an infrastructure collapses, that you're okay. I'm going to make America sustainable, and I'm going to provide a way where we can have a store for 7 years always. And then once we've met that 7-year period, that where we have got a store of food and water and everything like that for everybody in America in case of some type of disaster, dispersed all over in your individual communities, at that point there will be no taxes at all. You get what I'm saying? I want to make a goal to where we hit that goal and there's no more taxes until we fall 1 year below that goal. People can still do what they want to do. There's just no taxes. Think about that. I want to make us all eventually tax-free. All right. So here's the next part. Oh, there was talked about black people having a harder time borrowing money. You know, here's how I feel about borrowing money, black or white, and I think this may address it. You need money because you've got nothing. If you're poor, you need money because you've got nothing. And you're not going to get it because you're poor. Now, the reason you're poor may be different. Maybe because you're black. And the system is put into place that nobody wants to loan money to you. Maybe because you're brown. Maybe because of race. Maybe because everybody in your family you ever known has been white trash. Maybe. But here's the thing with loans. The Bible says the borrower is slave to the lender. That's why I want to give you a UBI. $2,650 a month per person. How many people live in your house? How much money is that coming into your home, into your family? Plus, I'm going to do something for the kids to ensure that they have a future and a now, to invest in their parents' ability to take care of them and the ability for them children to be on their own in the future. I have a plan for that, because that is Social Security. That is what they hold over our heads. When you're old, you're going to wish you had voted this way. Well, vote for Bradshaw, and I'm going to make sure you're good now, and I'm going to make sure you're good then. Someone's going to have to undo all the good things that I will do as president. All right. North Korea. I thought it was interesting that when he was talking about going to war, he's like, there's no war, there's no this. And he's like, in the meantime, we're friends, In the meantime, what? Between now and war? That's what I was thinking. And then there was a question, how to rein in North Korea's nuclear. Well, I think the best defense is people here in our entire nation trained, armed, and ready for an invasion, with the capability of massive deployment instantly. You understand? Think, if you will, of the scenario in the movie with, I think with Will Smith, maybe, Independence Day. How the people came together as a nation. Those who were trained and knew how. But I want it to be more than that amount of people. I want everyone to be trained. I want it to be, no matter where we're at, there's people who know how to fly helicopters. There's people who know how to operate missile launchers and throw grenades without blowing themselves up. Know how, you get what I'm saying? People need to be trained on automatic weapons and semi-automatic weapons. Think about this, and I'm not trying to put fear in people's hearts, but think about this. And population-wise, the world, if it ever came against us, outnumbers us. So I want a strong defense in the oceans. I want a strong defense on land, and I want a strong defense in air. And I want our people trained and armed. You want to talk about a military complex, about putting money into guns and hospitals and this and that overseas so other nations can defend themselves against tyrants? Well, I want to put that money into our people. If we're going to spend money on military, we're going to put it into our nation. We're going to put more hospitals into our nation. We're going to staff those hospitals, train those people to be nurses, doctors, surgeons. Give them the best training in the world. Going through the military training, serving in a military hospital will open a door for you to work at any hospital in the world by the time that I'm done. We will use that military training with the options of any part of it. So say someone says, I don't ever want to learn how to use a gun, but I want to learn how to fly a drone. I want to learn how to maneuver this. I want to learn how to whatever. Drop in supplies with a drone to people. I want to learn how to suture someone up and save their life. I want to learn how to fix the engine on a jet so we can get back in the air. You get what I'm saying? There's things that people say, I don't want to actually pull the trigger, but I want to be able to be a part and serve the nation. And I want that training to be the best training in the nation and be free of charge, because it's an investment into our people. And no requirement. The only requirement is just go be an American. Go through as much training as you want. Learn how to do everything you want with nothing required back from you, except if we go to war, you be available. I'm not even saying we would draft you. I'm just saying that you would at least take the phone call and say, hey, are you willing to join the fight? And if you're like, yeah, I'll do it here locally in my town, or basically that's what only thing we would require, is that you be willing to serve locally in your town and protect your people. Because that's the idea of it, is to ensure that you are safe and that the people are safe, because there is trained people wherever we live that can, at a moment's notice, take up arms and defend people, defend our brothers and sisters, without having to be deployed all over the world. I'm sure there's places that we strategically need to stay. All I need is that information to make that judgment, and that's what we'll do. We'll do the right thing. Other than that, I want to bring most people home, and I want them to be the people who are in charge of these training places where people can go and be trained. And we open this up to everyone. You see, I want people who have felonies to be able to vote. I want every American citizen, if you have not committed treason, to remain with your right to vote, in jail, out of jail. As long as you're breathing and you haven't committed treason, you have the right to vote. There's no telling what injustice puts you in jail. And you have the right to vote in people who would see that injustice. And I think that this is going to, these things that I want to do are going to solve and reduce the fear that you have for your children. I believe that. And that's why I'm fighting for this. I'm not saying I can solve every problem that's out there, but when we give people a universal basic income, which is equivalent to 40 hours a week, over $16 an hour, no strings attached, no taxes, you get that. And then we provide total health care. So if you're sick, if you got something that's keeping you from being able to work, you want to work, you want to chase your goals and dreams, but you can't because of an ailment, and we can fix it, then we're going to fix it. And if we have a shortage of doctors and nurses, we're going to train people and give people good jobs and have the ability to do what they want to do with the best training. Not just, oh, I can only afford a community college of nursing. No, you're going to get the best training on how to be a nurse and save a life. Because that's going to be the standard. It's going to be the highest. What's our standard in America? US AAA, highest standard. That's the standard that I'm going to hold.